Recognition of Palestinian statehood, like its recognition by dozens of other states, was not done for applause, but in the interest of the two-state solution, and has genuinely helped preserve.
Co-chairs, dear colleagues, Iceland recognized the independence and sovereignty of the State of Palestine in 2011, being one of the first in Western Europe to do so. Our position then and now is firmly founded in our belief in equal rights of both peoples to self-determination, Israelis and Palestinians, and the conviction that it is the only way forward to build lasting peace and stability in the region. We applaud, of course, France for announcing that they now intend to take the same step here in New York in September, and we encourage others to do the same. There are those who claim that recognition of Palestine is and would be a reward to terrorist groups that oppose peace. I say, however, that recognition is not a gift. It is a rightful affirmation of statehood necessary to enable meaningful negotiation between equals and to give effect to inalienable right of all peoples to self-determination.
Recognition is not symbolic, it's strategic. Recognizing Palestine is not a favor, it is a duty under international law. To recognize Palestine is to stand for justice. It is to believe in the UN Charter. It is to level the diplomatic playing field. A two-state solution begins with political recognition. Only then can genuine peace negotiation take place. Only then can we end the illegal occupation as confirmed by the International Court of Justice.
As a mother, how much pain do I feel in my heart to see a child, to see a baby dying today due to a lack of milk, due to a lack of water. And that is something that we cannot turn a blind eye to and simply say here that nothing's happening. Gaza has become a land of walking corpses. Hundreds of people have been killed while they were on their way to find food and water. I would like to ask in this assembly, civilians, children, older persons, the press, and United Nations officials themselves, when did they all become targets in war? How much have we done as human beings to stop this catastrophe that is playing out in Palestine? What is happening in Gaza is a humanitarian catastrophe, and it must be stopped immediately. I take this opportunity to applaud the fact that more than 130 countries are here today, so that this voice can be heard, so that this voice can be raised up, and so that this does not just become yet another meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, but rather to make sure that it is a meeting with results, so that tomorrow we don't continue to hear about...
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my country, the Union of the Comoros, is loyal to its principles, respect for international law. We'd like to solemnly reiterate our unswerving support to the two-state solution with East Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Palestine. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Union of the Comoros welcomes the convening of this international conference co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia under the auspices of the United Nations. A meeting being held just a few weeks before the 80th session of the General Debate of the General Assembly. Given the pace of massacres being perpetrated against the Palestinian people, by the time the next General Assembly takes place, we risk having on our conscience the fact that we didn't manage to act to save thousands of innocent lives. Thus, we are duty-bound to come out of this conference with the deepest conviction that we resolutely placed the future of the Palestinian people atop our...
The two-state solution is not an abstract aspiration. It is a commitment made by the international community more than 7 decades ago, enshrined in multiple resolutions of the General Assembly and the Security Council. Regrettably, today, its viability is in jeopardy. The situation in the occupied West Bank, where acts of violence against civilians continue alongside the worrying expansion of illegal settlements, constitutes a grave threat to international law and to any real possibility for lasting peace.
On 15 May 2025, the Parliament of San Marino adopted unanimously an historical recommendation committing the government of the Republic to recognize the State of Palestine by the end of this year. This is not a symbolic act. It is an outcome of deep reflection and a principled stance grounded in the values that define our Republic: the rejection of war, the right of people to self-determination, and the primacy of international law. The recognition process has already begun. The Ambassador of Palestine has formally presented her letter of credence to the Captain Regent, our head of state. The next step will be the appointment of a San Marino ambassador accredited to Palestine, establishing full diplomatic relations. We will also...
Resolution 181, adopted by the General Assembly in 1947, provided for the creation of two states, at a time when South Africa and many other developing countries were under the yoke of colonialism. Many of us have attained our freedom and independence. However, the inalienable right to self-determination of the Palestinian people, guaranteed under international law, has remained elusive for close to 8 years. In the week preceding this conference,
But when we speak of the two-state solution, we have to be clear. This cannot be a cosmetic fix that legitimizes the occupation. The Palestinian state must be a viable sovereign political entity, and it must have the same conditions as any of the countries participating in this conference. It must possess its own government, the ability to defend itself and to protect its population, total jurisdiction over its territory and its airspace, control of its borders, and the chance to administer its natural resources. We cannot tolerate conditions being attached to the full exercise of the right to self-determination of the Palestinians. The Palestinian state has declared itself to be peace-loving, and therefore it should be admitted as a full member of this organization without further delay. In the meantime,
Singapore has consistently supported the right of Palestinians to their own homeland based on a negotiated two-state solution, consistent with the relevant UNSC resolutions. We firmly believe that this is the only viable pathway to achieving a comprehensive, just, and durable solution to this long-standing conflict. To this end, we are prepared, in principle, to recognize the State of Palestine.
And it is this history that informs our unwavering support for the struggles of the Palestinian people. Vietnam was among the first countries to recognize the State of Palestine more than 37 years ago.
Co-chairs, we reaffirm our full support for the just cause of Palestine, as well as our unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people in their ongoing struggle to realize their inalienable right to self-determination and freedom, including independence in their sovereign and viable State of Palestine.
We call on all countries that have not recognized the State of Palestine to do so forthwith as an expression of their sincere commitment to peace and their respect for international law and legality in accordance with the relevant United Nations resolution.
Recognizing the State of Palestine is an act of peace. It is a necessary step to correct this historical injustice that has lasted 80 years. Future generations, when looking back over history, will rightly ask how and why was this genocide and such barbarity against the Palestinian people allowed to happen.
والمعالي والسعادة سيد الرئيس الحضور الكريم إن جمهورية جيبوتي قيادة وشعبا ظلت ثابتة في موقفها المبدئي من القضية الفلسطينية العادلة، وداعمة بكل وضوح لحل الدولتين كخيار وحيد قابل للحياة ينهي الاحتلال ويصون الحقوق ويحقق الأمن لكافة شعوب المنطقة.
And we now call upon all nations that have yet to do so, catch up with history. Third,